Hi, I'm Michael Hoffman, and I'm going to be going over some software flaws that could have been fixed by doing some general testing and making sure that, or general debugging as well. The flaws that I'm going to be going over are the Mariner 1 5-minute flight, 40 seconds on a rainy 5, and the Pentium chip fails math. Now with the first one, the Mariner 1's 5-minute flight, oops, now we're on the right page here. Basically, what happened on this one, it was back in 1962. The first spacecraft of the Mariner program was blasted off. He was supposed to fly by Venus. The mission was to go out there and compete with the Sputnik satellite that was launched by the Soviets earlier in the year. Now, what ended up happening was about 5 minutes into flight, the rocket started to veer off course, and the guidance system failed to correct the trajectory, and all guidance commands to try and correct the manual commands to correct the trajectory failed. And so what ended up happening was the safety engineer that was responsible to make sure that that didn't collide with anything in any major area detonated the rocket. And the reasoning behind this error was actually found that the engineer who had wrote the program for the guidance system had forgotten to put in a single punctuation mark. Now, because of this, it wasn't able to. The Atlas airborne beacon basically failed, and it stopped staying on course, and obviously was caused to be blown up. The second one, the 5-minute flight, which I actually have a video of, which is kind of cool to actually have a video of the rocket exploding. This was caused. Yeah, I'll just watch the video and then I'll explain it, I guess. And as you can see there, it exploded, and it exploded quite well. But the reasoning behind this rocket's explosion was a similar programming error, but instead of lasting 5 minutes like the other one did, this one lasted a whopping 40 seconds. It ended up finding out that basically after 30 seconds after liftoff, the rocket lost guidance and altitude information. It wasn't getting the inputs anymore. So it basically wasn't going to be correcting the trajectory in case things got off. And the reasoning behind it getting off point was that the initial the reference system that was built into the rocket dealt with 64-bit floating point data and was then down converted into 16-bit integer values. The result of the data conversion ended up being too large for the 16-bit integer and caused an arithmetic overflow in the hardware. And in this case, there was actually software built into the rocket that could have dealt with the problem, but was actually disabled before the launch. And so basically there was no way to stop it, and the rocket ended up veering 90 degrees off course, as you saw in the video, and was automatically detonated by the rocket's internal computers, as it had a fail-safety switch to ensure that it didn't collide into anything when it went down. This is obviously a very costly mistake that was done and costed the European Space Agency, a lot of money. Now, and the third one that I was going through was the Pentium chip fails math. Now, back in '94, CPUs made by Intel were having issues doing math. Basically, every time you'd put in a math calculation in a table, it would be wrong. Something was up in the software or in the chips in the internal chip. It turns out that when the chip was being programmed, or they had a lookup table that was designed in the processor that was supposed to consist of 1,066 table entries, and it was to be downloaded into the programmable logic array of the chip. But of those 1,066 table entries, only 1,061 made it into the first generation Pentiums. Basically meaning 5 of them didn't make it into the processor. So basically, every time it would try and pull up a calculation, it just wasn't getting everything right. This ended up costing Intel quite a bit of money, and basically, obviously as a PR stunt, and in 1995, they had a pre-tax charge of $475 million against their earnings, which was stemmed from replacing the flawed processors. And as you can tell, that is a nasty, nasty software that could have been fixed if they would have double checked, like to make sure that everything was downloaded into the chips. This is the 3 that I found. They found these 3 to be very interesting, and that's it.